Hello and welcome to Happiness Jungle TV show. I'm your guest host, CamiBaker.com, and I'm always excited about our guests, but I have to say that today's guest is the longest relationship friend that I've had, gosh, I don't know, 7, 8, 9 years, a long time. Emerald GreenForest has been a mentor of mine, and I have watched her bloom and grow over the years and just love this woman with all my heart, and I just really want to spend some time sharing her magic with everyone else. Emerald.
Oh, Cami, thank you so much for having me, and what a sweet way to introduce me. I appreciate that.
Well, it's all very genuine. You've been a big influence on my life. I have mentioned our mentorship together many times, and super excited to hear about some of the new stuff you've got going on, your podcast. So share with us how you'd like to get started.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here and to share with your audience. And, I love the intention of Happiness Jungle. And we have had a beautiful journey with each other. And as we evolve, we each evolve individually, we also evolve in relationships. So what I want to talk about, I think, today is I really want to talk about the evolution of my own business and how that impacted some relationships that I've had with people and what I'm looking at now and how I'm helping and serving people now. So I've rebranded my business in the last year or so to the Wealthy Life Mentor.
Yummy.
And what I love about the Wealthy Life Mentor is that it is more than just money. The Wealthy Life is more than just money. It's actually the sum total of all of the resources that we have available to us. And so I like to spell out the word thief for people, THIEF, to help them to talk about those resources and how we often steal from ourselves in these areas. So the resources are time, quality time, how we're spending our time. Are we spending our time in good relationships? Are we spending our time on good causes? Are we spending our time, just frittering it away with social media or some of those things that can happen? So time is the top thing that makes a wealthy life, and being mindful and conscious of the time that we are spending. Then we have our health. And those two kind of can sometimes interact with one another, because if you don't have your health, you don't have anything, right? Sure. You're going to just devote all your time to your health. And so I got really clued into health myself in the last couple of years when I found out I had some health issues that were kind of like below the surface. But when I discovered what they were, it was like, oh, it's time to really pay attention to this now. The third letter, I, the I in the word thief, is our information intake. And that can be intellectual information, but it can also be intuitive information. Like, we want to be really conscious and mindful and intentional about how we're bringing in information. So for people who are watching this is a good amount of information to open your mind, open your heart, feed you and nourish you spiritually when you come to the Happiness Jungle. But there's a lot of information out there that can be really draining and detrimental to our minds and our spirits.
Well, as they say, garbage in, garbage out, good in, good out. And anytime I'm interviewed, when people say, what's that one piece of advice that you would give our listeners? I always say, change your playgrounds and change your playmates. Once again, back to your point, what information are you taking in from the people, from what you're listening, from what you're watching, the YouTube? There's so much good information out there. As our friend Wayne Dyer would say, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change.
Exactly.
So we want to change our information. Awesome. Very interesting.
Well, and also our information is also our intuition, right? And so part of the work is really building trust and confidence and faith in your own intuition and being able to really count on your gut telling you the right direction to go. And that's something that's not really, still not really emphasized in our culture, but it is our own GPS, our own internal system that actually guides us on the path. And sometimes other people around us will be like, what are you doing? And by following our own heart and following our own intuition, it is our it is our destiny that we take into our own hands, if that makes sense.
Well, and I know working with you in the past, you've helped me with my intuition and to dial in and to, say yes to that which Spirit brings.
Exactly.
So what is E?
Well, I want to talk about saying yes to what Spirit brings, which is what brought me here today,
Isn't
because this was not on the schedule. And so when we are really fully in our intuition and receiving our information in a powerful and synchronistic way, then wonderful synchronistic things come to serve our wealthy life, like invitations to be in the happiness jungle.
True that.
So thank you.
You're welcome.
So E is energy exchange. And this is where we talk about the money piece, because a lot of people think wealth and they think it's all about the money. But wealth and money is just 1/5 of a wealthy life. It's just 20% of a wealthy life. And so that's what the E is all about. It's about how are we exchanging energy in the marketplace? How are we delivering our value into the marketplace? How are we communicating our value into the marketplace such that the marketplace responds appropriately to serve this larger picture of our own wealthy life? So your wealthy life might be, $10,000 or $15,000 a month in income. Somebody else's wealthy life might be $250,000 a month in income. And it's each of us have our own capacity to consciously create the wealthy life that we want, and then to go into the marketplace and command from the marketplace, which we can only do when we are clear in our intention, right?
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so. That's one of the things I got from working with you.
Yeah, nice. And then the F is fun with family and friends.
Nice.
Yeah, because if we aren't having fun with our family and friends, then, what's the point?
Fully funded.
Fully
funded
fun.
family and friends.
Fully funded fun with our family and friends, right? And fellows, family, friends, and fellows. So that's what I'm working with right now. Is I'm helping people to discover their wealth readiness. Like, are you actually ready to create a wealthy life by design? Like, really design your life and be intentional and be conscious, rather than most of us were trained to go down the chute, and to be in the cookie cutter kind of system that says, oh, you should be this or you should be that, and you need to get good grades, and all of this cultural conditioning. And we live now in what I call the creative age. And when you're in the creative age, you actually have the power to create your own life. So why not let it be a wealthy life by design?
True that. And when you are attracting things in, why not go for exactly that which you want? So tell me about your podcast being in the top 100.
Awesome. Well, I actually have two podcasts. The first podcast is the Men on Purpose podcast. It has been live since January of 2018 and is downloaded in 86 countries around the world, and now is an Apple top 100 ranked podcast. It just hit 87 in the marketing category yesterday, so that was really exciting.
Out of 750,000.
At least 750,000 podcasts. So, and more podcasts being launched every single day. So that was a really lovely accomplishment, and I have to credit all of the men who were my guests and collaborated with me to bring that forward, to have all of these downloads from all over the world and to be able to chart. The other thing about the Men on Purpose podcast was it was a healing journey for me. I actually spent many years of my life in relationships with men where I was either involved with somebody who had addiction issues or was abusive, or I felt alienated in the relationship. So when I was inspired to do the Men on Purpose podcast, it was an opportunity for me to actually start to shift my perspective and my focus to seeking and finding and gathering men on purpose. And I learned so much from the Men on Purpose podcast and from all of those magnificent men. And so that was beautiful.
When I heard that you were doing the Men on Purpose, I thought that was quite the shift, because when I worked with you, I remember that you were really focused on women. So that was a major shift. But, as you say all the time, it's all in good time.
Yeah, exactly.
Spirit brings you where you need to be.
Exactly. And as a result of the success of Men on Purpose podcast, I actually still had women clients coming to me. So this spring, I was inspired to launch a second podcast. And so I spent this year building the second podcast. It's called Wickedly Smart Women. And we launched on the 18th of September, and on the 19th of September, we were number 75.
Amazing.
Top 100 podcast immediately, like within 24 hours, we were at top 100. And so I was like, that's interesting. It took the men a year and 10 months to get to the top 100, and the women were like within 24 hours. And so what's beautiful is I can actually use, I can leverage the men's audience to serve the women's audience, and I can leverage the women's audience to serve the men's audience. So now there's this beautiful just unification on both sides for the audiences to each be served in their own way, but also to help one another to get the good news, right?
So as people are watching our show, who would you be looking for to be on either of those?
Well, men on purpose or men on purpose in the making. Sometimes there are men out there who are, they know it's time for them to get known. They know it's time for them to get a message out. They're called. They have some kind of deep commitment to creating some kind of change in the world. Generally, the people that I have on the show are change agents. So they can be in business, but they can be philanthropic. They can be, they can be artists. They could be. I had a guy on who was into cryptocurrency. So there's it's across the board. It's not a specific industry, but the main thing is they're called in some way. My people are always called in some way, and they know that it's time for them to expand their reach with what it is that their message is. So pretty much the same thing for the Wickedly Smart Women, or the Wickedly Smart Women in the making, who are really excited to be change agents in the world and to bring a message out into the world. I had one guest on whose show aired last Wednesday. She helps mothers with mommy guilt, and it was such a powerful show. It was such a powerful show. So my desire is to elevate, celebrate, and spotlight men who are on purpose and wickedly smart women who are bringing their wisdom out into the world.
I remember when we first started working together, you had been a part of a book with Lisa Sasevich, Answering the Call. And in your chapter, you mentioned how we are being called forth by the spirits that are here now, by the spirits from past, and spirits that aren't even here yet, that are wanting and needing and calling us forth. And I felt so in alignment with that.
Yeah.
So there's men and women out there that are feeling that call, and you're the kind of change agent to help the change agents.
Exactly. I'm a change agent to help the change agents, and how I help them is I help them to convert their wisdom into wealth. And that is what I did with you. We worked together to distill what is the wisdom that you carry and to create a vehicle for bringing that wisdom out into the world such that you can create financial wealth for yourself, but also create a wealth of wonderful relationships and partnerships and all of those other things. So yes, it's a beautiful thing, and you did a great job. You were one of my star clients. We were talking earlier when we were having a little cup of tea and talked about working with people who come to us and they're excited and they're called. And for me, the calling is not just the energy in your own heart that wants to serve, but it is also the prayers of all of the people out there that were uniquely designed. You were uniquely designed to serve them. There's a match there, right? There is a match there. And one of the things that we were talking about while we were having tea was when people come all excited, but then it peters out. So my people not only are called, but my people are committed. They are wholeheartedly committed. And there is a difference. There can be plenty of people out there that are called, but they're like, well, that's an interesting thing, but I don't think it's for me, or maybe that's a little more than I'm ready to handle, or, they allow the seeds of doubt to kind of feed into their brains and their hearts and sprout these weeds. And so the work is to weed out those seeds of doubt. So my people, the people I'm looking for, are called and they're committed. And they're ready to say, I will do what it takes. I am not interested in just doing this as a vanity project. I know that I must do this. And so those are the people that I'm really interested in featuring on my shows and also working with as clients.
I remember when we worked together, you said, if you really want people to get your message, to be coachable, to be open and really implement what you're teaching, raise your prices.
Exactly.
People who pay attention, and people who are invested. And it's so true. It's just like going to the gym. If it's $10 a month, you may or you may not go. When 4 or 5 years ago, when I started putting on a little bit of weight, I went to a place that was $3,500 for the year. And when I first invested that, I went because I wanted my money's worth.
Exactly.
But then I got coachable and I was like, oh, okay, well, what does protein, what is carbs, what is all that stuff? So people who pay attention.
They certainly do. They certainly do. And I had the same experience myself when I had this health issue. I happened upon a fellow speaker who was speaking about healthcare and had his own program, and I invested $10,000 to work with this guy. And investing $10,000 to work with somebody, you do change your diet. You do change. You do the things that you're meant to do. That he's telling you to do. You do take the supplements. You do the yoga or whatever it is that's in the program because you've invested. And so, yeah, I am definitely looking for people who are called, who are committed, and who are not just committed to putting in the time, but also committed to making the kinds of investments that are necessary in order to really create significant and conscious change in the world. Yeah.
So other than myself, what are some other stories of people that you have worked with, like where they were, what you did together, and where they're at today?
Yeah, well, it's wonderful that you are asking me to be here, and I so appreciate it. And you mentioned one of them. Lisa Sasevich was my client a decade ago, and when I started working with her, the work was to help her to really step into her leadership role more powerfully. And by the time we finished our work, she gave me credit for doubling her first 7-figure year. So she has now gone on to actually create 45 million plus, maybe 50 million at this point, and has been an Inc. 500 company to watch 2 or 3 years running. And so part of the work when people work with me is I activate and I amplify your capacity to be a wealth magnet. It's not just, not just the money piece though, it's the wealthy life. It's like this holistic, everything is in order, everything is holistically balanced and working in service to the good of all. You couldn't be making $50 million if you weren't taking care of your health, if you weren't focused on right relationship with your family, if you weren't, mindful about what information was coming in, if you weren't clear about how you were spending your time and having it be fruitful and results oriented. So Lisa is an example. Another example I love to share is Kim Eldridge. Kim, when she came to work with me, she had never made more than $30,000 a year working with her father in his accounting firm. And we actually did my Wired for Wealth program, which was a private VIP thing together. And I helped her to, shift internal mindset around money and around her own worth and her own value and charging and all of those things. And she ended up going to an event after we finished our work together, probably about maybe not even 6 weeks after we finished our work together. And she sent me an email about 2 weeks after the event, and she said, I have 5 figures in period, the period, bank period. I was like, yeah, girl, that's so awesome. And she now has a very successful business. She runs New Frontier Publishing, and she helps people get to bestseller status and helps people to get their book out of them that has been, sitting in the drawer or on the computer for years. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Give me an example of a man, because I know you've been working with a lot of men.
Yeah. Well, so I have a guy who I started to work with a few years ago. His name is Aaron Smith. Aaron, when he came to me, he had been in a 20-year career as a school administrator. And how he showed up was he heard my podcast, Men on Purpose podcast, and he had written a book about STEM schools. And so he was excited to get his book out there and applied to be on the podcast. And when we did the interview, I was like, We are going to need to talk. So we talked, and he ended up becoming my client, and we actually built out an entire business for him called the Workplace Readiness Institute. I think it's Institute, but it's Workplace Readiness is his brand now. And he actually has a couple of programs that we built together. One is to help school districts and municipalities apply for grants to bring STEM initiatives into their educational system. So that's one of his programs, the grant program. And then he has another more advanced program to help a school district to actually plan out and implement a STEM initiative in their schools.
Wow.
To help people who are in the educational system to be crafting education that's actually going to serve the people who are graduating to be able to be workplace ready when they get out of high school. So really powerful.
He's really called forth.
Super called. And the words he said to me was, I have to get known. I know I need to get known. So I was like, okay. Yeah, he's really got a mission, and he spent 20 years in education, so he's seen how the system has not prepared people for workplace readiness. And so his body of work serves municipalities, it serves educational systems, but it also serves corporate America, who gets all these graduates and ends up having to spend hundreds of millions of dollars training them to actually be able to function in the workplace. Yeah.
There's a woman that I've met recently who's being called forth to help create interns for companies from college, but have them be work ready. Because they want an intern and the companies want them, but they're so busy doing this, they're not really work ready. So she helps to prepare them.
Exactly.
So
I have
many
another
people.
guy client that I can talk about too. His name is John. John came to me, he had a speaker business, and he was actually preparing for his live event. And the piece of work that we did with him was just really specific. Sometimes people work with me for an extended period of time, and sometimes we just go in and laser focus and just do that one little piece. And in his case, it was laser specific to him taking care of himself in order to manifest what he wanted to manifest. And so we did a little bit of work together, and then he went to his live event, and he closed 45% of the room into a 5-figure offer for the first time ever. And he was already a multi-6-figure earner with his events, but this was like, it was with greater ease, with just greater respect for himself and the value that he was bringing. And so John was a really fun client to work with as well.
So with all these people that you are giving and sharing your energy, you've got to get filled up somewhere.
Yeah.
So what does Emerald do to fill up?
I go outside and spend time in nature. I spend a lot of time here in Nashua on the rail trail. I love the rail trail. I go visit the Unkitanasset Brook, which is about 15 minutes up the rail trail from the rail trail parking lot. I have gone up and down that rail trail multiple times, and it feeds me so well. It's such a beautiful, beautiful environment, and I'm just so grateful to whoever was wise enough to transition railroads into bike trails, because that was brilliant, and so many people actually benefit from that. So I spend a lot of time in nature, do yoga every day. Yin yoga is my latest thing that I'm doing, which is completely like just lie on pillows for several moments in a pose, and then lie on some pillows in another pose. It's really fun.
You're not doing the acrobatic aerial yoga?
No, I'm not doing the aerial yoga. I'm doing the lie down yoga right now to nurture myself. Yeah, and I actually have something for your listeners,
please,
your watchers, your viewers. If you are interested in having a wealthy life, I've created a quiz, and it's my wealth readiness quiz. So they can go to quiz.wealthylifementor.com and take the quiz, and once the quiz is completed, you'll immediately get your results, and it will tell you where you're at. It will score you basically on where you're at in your creation of your wealthy life. And then you will automatically also receive my 30-day Welcoming Wealth mini course, complimentary as part of this process.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah.
Well, that's a nice extra bonus. You get a little something, something free.
Exactly. And in that, you learn about the 5 ways that we ward off wealth, which means we prevent it from coming in. And then the second 5 emails is the 5 ways to welcome it instead.
Now, you have a ton of books and programs and things. Where would we find all of your material?
So you can go to emeraldgreenforest.com, and that's my website, and you will find the programs and products that I offer there. Also on Amazon, I have multiple books that I've been part of as a collaborative author. And then I have my own book, Wisdom Winks to Make You Think, success quotes for the success of your business and your life. And that book is for sale on Amazon. So, yeah. And people can find me on Instagram under The Wealthy Life Mentor, on Twitter, as well as on Facebook. Yeah.
Well, in our last 60 seconds or so, what is that last pearl of wisdom that you would like to impart?
So what I would like to impart is a wealthy life requires you to weed out what's not working and to weave in what does. And one of the most important things that I am choosing to weave in right now is walking in partnership with people that I admire. So thank you for having me here on the show. Thank you for being a stupendous client. Thank you for being a role model. Thank you for being a leader in the community and in the world. And thank you for walking in partnership with me.
Well, thank you, and thank you for being available today and having this opportunity to come together after all these years of. I was on Babes on Blab.
Babes
on Blab. Yes.
And then Blab went out of business.
So we've done a lot of things together.
Well, I'd love to have you on Wickedly Smart Women, too.
Well, I am wickedly smart,
Yes,
so
you
I
are.
qualify. Well, Happiness Jungle is happy once again to have Emerald Peaceful Greenforest in our jungle. Little green energy there.
Yeah.
So happy to have everyone with us today. Thank you so much for being on. I honor you. And please go find Emerald's information online. You will not be sorry. You'll be very blessed. Thank you.